Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get a chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. This broadcast is sponsored by Reveal Brainspace, the industry's leading AI eDiscovery platform. Don't forget to subscribe to watch me, George Socha, weekly with leaders in eDiscovery. Thank you for tuning in. I am George Socha, heading up brand awareness at Reveal. This has been a long conference. I'll probably make some more of those. We'll see what happens. But this week we are broadcasting live from Legalweek 2024, if you couldn't tell that already, in New York City. On each episode of eDiscovery Leaders Live, I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live. Our guest for this session is Sam Sessler. Sam is the assistant director. Is this still the correct title? Okay. Global eDiscovery Services at Norton Rose Fulbright. So Sam, thanks for joining me. We'll see. Hopefully you can talk more coherently at this point than I can.
It's been a long week, and it's only Wednesday.
Yeah. I'd like to start with the topic du jour, the topic of the conference. We might as well call this Legal Gen AI,
right?
2024.
The topic of the year, right?
Yeah, topic of the year. Thoughts?
Yeah. So a lot of exciting stuff, right? So we've spent a lot of time this week meeting with software providers, with legal services providers, and just to sort of peel back the layers of the onion a bit, to the extent that we can learn more, right? And that they can show us. And there are just so many use cases that we're seeing, and a lot of different approaches to Gen AI that providers are taking. And a lot of questions have come out of that, right? But for now, my observation overall is just it's still really new, and there are a few technologists that I feel like are ahead. Some are in my limited knowledge, are much more ahead, further ahead. And what I mean by that is some providers are looking at just one piece right now as they test it, validate it. For example, there's some chatbot-like technology out there that's focusing on the preciseness of the results of Gen AI. Others are designing a whole process around it. A whole workflow that doesn't just focus on precision, but also the recall. Others are contemplating, okay, what happens to the content I'm generating? Does that become my work product? How do I store it? Should I store it? How do I download it? Should I download it, right? So a lot of interesting things coming out of that. But it's clear it's still very early, but it's very exciting. The use cases I feel like are limitless almost. You can truly interrogate data with this technology. So I'm excited. I think a lot of people are excited about it.
So it is, as you said, early days.
Yeah.
You haven't had a chance to see a lot in terms of depth and scope, but you've at least had a chance to get a sampling of things. Are there approaches that you've seen that you think are more likely to be successful, others less likely? And I know I'm asking you to look into that crystal ball.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if only I had one. We had one. I think the approach that I like and that I hope that really takes off is the commercials around how do we drive adoption safely and with proper validation. And the pricing of this technology is challenging. It sounds like the way that Gen AI is structured, and how are you going to be able to sell that to customers and still make a profit? And what I am fearful of is not being able to drive the adoption appropriately and fast enough because of the costs. So we'll see how people sell it. Are they going to bundle it? Are they going to do the traditional per doc, per token, per gigabyte model, right? But I think that the approach that I've seen, or at least being contemplated, of bundling in a strategic way or controlling the model, bring on your own models. For example, control the throttling maybe, so you're not spending a fortune on that piece. And it's like the electric car, right? How did we drive adoption for the electric car? We priced Tesla's Model 3 at a reasonable price, right? We got them on the road. People loved them. So I hope we see a similar thing here.
Or maybe to continue that analogy, about 6 months ago, we got a very lightly used, because it's all we could find, 200 miles on it, not even, Toyota RAV4 Prime. That's a plug-in hybrid. It gave us,
there you go,
they're around the town benefits of a plug-in. But we live in Minnesota, where we often end up going long distances, and range is still an issue, especially at this time of year. It gave us the ability to take advantage of what the traditional approach is offered as well.
Right.
Yeah. Are you seeing, for the pricing side of things, that folks are all pretty much headed in the same direction, or are they talking about very different potential pricing models?
The common answer is we don't know. We don't know what we're going to do.
Which is not a very useful
it's not
answer
very useful.
For you, is it?
It's not helpful. But I get it. And there have been some that have already gone through that, and they are a little bit ahead. And they have seen early adoption with traditional cow. And so they're trying to repeat that process through that style of pricing. So there are a few that have a sense of which direction to go. Yeah.
Well, let's change topics a little bit, but not entirely. We're not leaving Gen AI yet, but we're not talking so much about what we were just discussing, but rather Copilot.
Yes. Copilot's exciting. We've been able to use it some within our organization, within our firm. We've met with Microsoft, spent time with them and their team, and with others. And there's a lot of amazing uses with Copilot when it comes to productivity, et cetera. But there's also a lot of interesting things when it comes to discovery. And I'm really excited about this one, is when it comes to Microsoft 365 and the Purview product, Microsoft is focusing on moving that Gen AI, moving Copilot to Purview, right?
Well, so what would that mean potentially?
Right. So think about, in the collection world, we are pulling data out of the cloud so we can interrogate it, review it, produce it, right? So what Microsoft appears to be doing with Copilot is moving that technology in place. So when you're responding to cyber incidents, you can ask questions about the data, feed it information to get a better response back, even do traditional sampling that you would do in an e-discovery platform has been a possibility to do in M365. But now applying Copilot, let's use a hypothetical. Let's generate a sample in place at the point of collection when I have an investigation or a litigation, and I want to find out what's in that data population before I even take it out.
Right.
I'll ask Copilot to tell me about that sample. What's in the sample? I can ask, targeted questions about it. I can even do some tagging review and then ask questions about those tags. Give me the prevalence of this category that I tagged. Make decisions on the larger population in the tenant. So the way that's going is exciting to a certain extent, as long as there's validation in place after you've done your assessment. But just moving that assessment really far to the left and also really far to the right is really exciting.
Yes, simultaneously to both ends.
Right.
A concept that we probably wouldn't even have contemplated 2 years ago.
Exactly.
Did the folks from Microsoft give any indication as to the likely timing?
They did not.
Or is that like the pricing discussion?
They did not. Now they did talk a lot about licensing and how to make it. Again, it comes down to adoption. They want adoption, it sounds like, and so the licensing is going to be a little more. It sounds like more flexible in terms of instead of an all-you-can-eat, it's more of I want this role, this capability, etc. So that's exciting because that's always been a challenge as well. Is what flavor of licensing do I need to do certain tasks in e-discovery? Yeah.
Well, let's move on to another, I think, unrelated topic, but maybe not. The world of cyber. And what's going on there?
Yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention, George, around Copilot is we also learned how Microsoft is storing Copilot data. So all the
how
chats.
are they doing that?
So it is being captured, and it's stored traditionally in that application's location. So if I'm interrogating, the chats are going to be stored in that custodian's mailbox.
Okay.
So from a traditional collection and search, you can find it there. There are other chat and prompts and content that you could create in the other applications, Microsoft suite of applications. So MS Word, for example, if I want to ask Copilot to draft a job description for me, right? That's going to be stored in OneDrive, but my chats are going to be stored in a nice transcript file. I can export it just like a Teams chat using an E5 license, it sounds like. So, a lot of cool things there, but also
here's a question.
A little scary at the same time.
And none of us are going to know the answer, but it sounds like this is introducing yet additional complexities. Let's say that, for example, you and I are doing something relatively benign. We're preparing to give a presentation at a panel at Legalweek, and we need to put together for that a PowerPoint. And it's, I'm moderating the panel, and there are 4 speakers, you one of them. To make it easier to put together our PowerPoint, I've created a PowerPoint, but sent you a link. It's a shared file. You can edit it.
Yep.
And you decide, as do your 3 co-panelists, that each one of you is going to use Copilot to help you with the creation of the slides in that PowerPoint. So we've got multiple versions of that file. We've got 4 different people using Gen AI with their chat files now stored in 4 separate locations, assuming I haven't done the same as well.
Right.
Are we looking at our e-discovery future there and the challenges that go with that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you mentioned a lot of shared linking and cloud attachments. There have been a ton of improvements with what Microsoft is offering from a collection standpoint and downstream review standpoint. But when it comes to the collaboration piece with Gen AI, with Copilot, this example, that content is being stored, and if that content becomes discoverable,
Oh, and then we get on a Teams meeting,
right?
to discuss what we're doing with the PowerPoint, and we're all editing it, and we're all using Copilot simultaneously to figure out what to do with our edits.
And let's say that you were late to the meeting. It was more likely I was late to the meeting. And I jump in and say, Copilot, summarize this meeting for me.
Okay.
And then I start asking more questions to Copilot, right? So those chats are stored, and they are essentially discoverable.
And I would say that is a totally plausible scenario.
That's right. That's very likely. Yep.
Okay. Well, something for us to contemplate. Let's now move on to cyber. Maybe a simpler topic. I don't know.
Yeah, I wish. It was.
Not so much. So what's new in the world of cyber?
So I think with cyber, it's how can we. So there's always been a technology gap with cyber, especially when it comes to identification and threat remediation. But on the discovery side, the data breach review, data breach response, and the technology gap, it's still there. I feel like we've gotten really good at the identification piece. That is the exception. I think our firm does it pretty well, and I've seen others do it well also. But when it comes to the extraction of that sensitive data, linking it to individuals, and then being able to do a privacy assessment, that is very cumbersome still. It's very expensive still. And, individuals would prefer to over notify or under notify, and that can cause, obvious problems. But the costs are just still difficult to manage. So we have seen some tech that is more promising, but there's still a tech gap. Again, going back to Gen AI, I think there are things that could be done.
We cannot escape Gen AI.
You can't escape it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think there are things you can do there to not just solve the technology gap, but also improve upon what your existing workflows you have in place now, while we wait on the silver bullet, right?
Any things in particular?
Yeah,
or is that too much in the weeds?
No. I think you can use that. You can use that emerging tech to have more quality. So quality control is very expensive. You're using attorneys to do it, or lower cost resources, but a lot of them. And using Gen AI, I think, can help you with the quality control. It can help you with the automation, the data normalization and deduplication piece, where we've relied on SQL queries and a lot of other deduplication, fuzzy matching software. Why not just ask Gen AI to build a baseball card of that information, right? Yep. Tell me, and also on a validation standpoint, tell me, did I find any more PII elements for this individual in this data set? And just building that generative prompting I think can build a really sophisticated response from Gen AI when it comes to cyber. Hopefully, checking that box on the recall and the quality control to make sure I'm defensible with what I'm doing, but I'm also doing it in a reasonable way. So.
Well, we've covered a lot in a relatively short period of time, but we've also come to the end of our time, I think. So, Sam, thanks for joining us. Sam Sessler, again, is the Assistant Director, Global eDiscovery Services at Norton Rose Fulbright. I am George Socha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Sam,
thank you.
As always, thank you.
Pleasure.